Hello, again, Oscars. It's me. It's your old buddy Steve Simonson, and we're going to do a quick strategic objective episode today in our Founder Foundations mini-series. Now, what is the strategic objective? And you may have heard different nomenclature around this concept, but essentially it's helping define in more objective terms and articulation of what your vision really is. So many entrepreneurs, when we begin in business, we just start because we got to figure out if we can, make ends meet and make this idea work. And so the idea of having a, highly fleshed out strategic objective is, well, largely nonsense, right? There's so many of us that, kind of started down the entrepreneurial path as a side hustle or as a necessity, that the idea of adding formality or making giant proclamations about where we're going before we know if we can sell the first item, well, is both, whoever's criticizing it, they're idiotic, and whoever hasn't been in the trenches doesn't know. You just can't do everything from the outset perfectly, especially if it's your first time out. Now, I do want to add this caveat that if you have already started a business, or a couple of them perhaps, and you are not beginning at the very earliest stages with the formation of a strategic objective, you're now missing the point. So depending on that context, whether you have been down this road before or that you just ended up on this road and it's a happy accident, it doesn't really matter, because strategic objective really is an important touchstone for your business. Now, again, many people use different terminology for this. I am inspired by this because I want this objective to both be, kind of far out looking. So that makes it a future objective. And I want it to be correlating, if not caused by, the strategy that we use for the company itself. So what are the types of things that you might include in a strategic objective? One of the things I think is really important is you're trying to get this really clear vision of where you're headed so that you can communicate this to your team, so you can communicate it to your suppliers, so you can communicate it to your customers. And so some of the things that might be components of a strategic objective would be things, like, hey, where are we doing business? We're going to focus on being the best, Irish band that we can be, and we're going to write Irish music, and we're going to stick to Ireland, right? That's what we're going to do. Fine, no problem. Somebody else may say we're going to be the global, telecommunications carrier, so we're operating everywhere that anybody would have a phone. Fair enough, no problem. Right. So when you think of a business, a part of its strategic objective, you have to think about where you're going to be doing some business. You also should consider, what are you doing in that business? I mentioned the band, the Irish band, or the telecommunications company. Often my companies have been in e-commerce, and product-based e-commerce at that. So we would typically form our strategic objective around, we're going to be the best hardware seller in this category. And I'm speaking not of computer hardware, but like home and garden hardware. Or we're going to be the best, cabinet provider, or the best small office home office provider, often referred to as SOHO for short. So, but those are still platitudes, but we're starting with, where are we located? What are we doing? Then we want to start thinking about, what are the growth concepts that we're trying to do? We want to, hit the $1 million a year, $10 million a year, or, whatever number you think is relevant to you, $100 million a year within 5 years, right? So by applying a time and some threshold of objective, you're starting now to form what the future looks like. Again, as I like to say, so you can engineer the outcome backwards. If for example, in your 5-year objective, you want to be doing 100 million, and today you haven't sold anything, you've got to work backwards quickly to figure out how you're going to hit that goal. And you should be rational about it and make sure that some of those things are feasible, and don't rely on some crazy unicorn event to hockey stick you towards success. By the way, whether or not you're going to be realistic, when any external party hears the objective, they will be realistic. So you may say to your supplier, hey, here's our objective. Look, isn't that really cool and very impressive to you? We're going to be $100 million in the next 12 months. And they're like, well, you sell zero today, so we don't believe you, right? It doesn't seem feasible to them. Now, maybe you can do that. You've got plenty of capital or resources or experience. I'm not saying that's impossible. I'm just saying that other people will apply a feasibility study to your strategic objective, and that's okay. I'm not saying you should not have some big objective, right? The book Good to Great called it a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. And other books since then have come up with their own kind of nomenclature around this. And really, this is not about books. This is about you trying to define what is the objective for the company. And I highly recommend thinking about it in a 5-year term. So I'm not going to get into all the bits and pieces of how you do this, but all of the things about who you're serving, where you're doing your business, what are the core precepts of those types of things, and then any unique aspects to what you do. Hey, we're going to do this, and we're going to be, an all green company. All our power is going to be green, and all our products are going to be green, and this and that. If that's part of it, great. But of course, never fake those things, as you've probably heard me say before. Make them real, make them genuine, and make them mean something to you. And again, there's a whole process for finding your strategic objective. And I'm essentially saying in this Founder Foundations kind of preview, you should find your strategic objective, get to it. And then as you go through your process and you refine those elements, it should come down to, 1 or 2 paragraphs and be tight and be clear and be actionable, so that every decision your company makes, they can look themselves in the eye and say, does this move our strategic objective forward? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, that should be set aside, and you should stop wasting time on things that do not advance your strategic objective. That's how important it is for a company to have a clear, articulated strategic objective. Go get one today, everybody. Founder Foundations continues. Thank you.